and welcome to another teacher talk session tonight. And tonight we are going to have our 117 session with a different educator from different part of the world. And tonight we are going to have a publisher, teacher trainer, and a consultant, and Steven J Ogden. And when he comes here, we are going to be with him, and we are going to have a very fruitful session with him. I don't want to waste time, and I would like to invite him and start our conversation with him. When he comes, we are going to start. I'm really excited because 2 weeks ago I was with him, about like with his one of his training session at ITK. And hello, Jam. It's really great to see you here. We are really honored. I have invited him, but waiting for him to join. Let me invite him one more time. I'll invite him again. Yes, I have done. We are waiting for him to join. Yes, there he is. I have invited you, Steve, and if you accept it, and I'll try one more time. Just a moment. Yes, one more time. I am invited. Hello, Murat. Hello, all of you.
I think there he is. Not yet. I can't see you. I can hear, but I can't see.
Volkan Bey,
Yes.
can you hear
Hello?
me?
I can hear you. I can see you, but I can see your computer.
You can see my computer.
Yeah, if you turn the camera.
Ah, there you
Yes,
go.
now perfect. Yes, it's wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Great.
Good
Hello,
evening,
Steve.
Volkan. How are you?
I'm fine, great. It's really great to see you, and I'm really happy to have you. And I would like to say thank you very much for accepting my invitation for Teacher Talk. It's really great honor to have you in 117 session here. It's really a wonderful moment for us.
It's a massive pleasure to be here with you, Volkan. As we were talking about earlier on, congratulations on doing this, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm the 117th, which is just remarkable, really. And I'm very mindful of what I can say to add to what you've already discussed in the previous 116 sessions. But hopefully there'll be something there for you and everybody else too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And if you are ready, and I know about you, but maybe we can start and we can talk. We have lots of things to talk. Are you ready? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Volkan. It keeps coming and going, but I can hear you okay. No worries.
Okay. Are you ready? Can we start?
Of course we can. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Whenever
So
you're
perfect.
fine.
All right. So I know about you, but maybe our followers would like to know about you. So can you tell us about yourself, please, and a bit about your experiences too?
Okay, all right, sure. I can do that. So I guess I was actually watching a couple of your live videos, well, previous video recordings from live sessions that you have done recently over the weekend. I was doing a little bit of studying, and what was quite surprising actually was was how many other guests that you have had kind of fell into teaching as well. It wasn't really a plan of a lot of your guests. They just kind of fell into teaching, and it happened with me as well. So I first started teaching as a result of going traveling after I finished my degree. I went backpacking to Asia and to Australia, and at that time it was a way of extending my my travels to different places. It was almost like a passport into different countries. So that's when I kind of started teaching as well. But like I said, it was never my intention at the beginning. It's something that I haven't regretted since, but it was something that I never planned for at the beginning. And and then I was lucky enough to go and work in Asia. I spent some time, a few years in Japan, in China, working all the way through Asia as a teacher, teaching both young little primary students, adults, and also university students at the same time. And then after 7 or 8 years, I worked my way back to the UK, and I thought my traveling days were done, and I was teaching at the university there, preparing international students to do their undergraduate degrees and master's degrees in the UK. And that's when I met my wife, who is from Konya. She's Turkish. And this was probably 16 years ago now, and she dragged me back to Turkey. And since then, pretty much, I did some teaching in the first couple of years, but since then I've mostly been working in publishing. But as a publisher and a teacher trainer as well. And I'm also doing non-education bits as well at the minute. I'm also working as a consultant, a business consultant for a petrochemicals company based in Istanbul as well. So trying to do a mixture of different things at the minute. And that's kind of my story, really, Volkan.
I see. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing, Steve. And let me ask you another question. Really great. By the way, it's really wonderful to, make her convince, to move to Turkey from where you are. It's wonderful. Wonderful. And okay, so let's move to another question then. What was or were your turning point or points in your education?
I guess every formal bit of education that you do opens doors and creates opportunities, I guess, doesn't it? For me, of course, getting the CELTA in Thailand, I did my CELTA in Thailand many years ago. I did it there, Volkan. It was the cheapest place to do it at the time. In terms of living there and being able to study cheaply. I was on a very limited budget at that time. So I guess the CELTA opened lots of opportunities for me to teach formally in different institutions in Asia. About 10 years ago, I also continued with a kind of open university, which is kind of distance learning diploma. I did this about 10 years ago in business and finance. And this kind of opened up further opportunities in terms of seeing education, not just, publishing, not just as materials, but also creating, focusing more on kind of the business aspect of that. So I guess what I would always suggest to people is try and, continue learning, of course. Learning is important, but developing those kind of transferable skills that you can take into different areas, because although we're all teachers at some point, the journey is long and we may change as we move forward. So developing transferable skills that we can kind of use in different areas, I guess.
I understand. Thank you very much, Steve. Let's move to another question. And I know that you have been teaching for a long time, and after that you work as a teacher trainer, and then probably you are still teach. And during your whole career, probably you have used lots of methodologies and tried, or maybe strategies you used in your in your lessons, and probably you have a kind of a philosophy of teaching. So what is it? What is your philosophy of teaching? Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I think there's a bit of a delay, Volkan. I do apologize. I think it might be my internet here as well. Sorry about that. You were asking about my philosophy on teaching,
Yeah, exactly.
I guess. Right?
What is your philosophy of teaching?
All right.
Yes.
It's a tricky question, isn't it? I guess initially our beliefs and ideas are kind of shaped by the teachers that we met when we were learners ourselves in school, right? I guess initially when people first go on the journey of teaching, they reflect back on the teachers that they met during their own days. And I was kind of influenced by two teachers, my drama teacher and my English teacher. And I was influenced in the way that, you know, they were passionate, they were hardworking, they were modest, they were supportive, of course, all of these things, but they were quite quirky, quite unique in terms of their characters. So I always kind of gravitated towards those kind of teachers that were just doing something slightly different, I guess. There's a nice quote actually by Carl Menninger, if you know Carl Menninger.
Sure.
I showed this quote in the IT conference that we were at the other week, and he says that what a teacher is more important than what she or he teaches. So it's not just, I don't know if you can remember that, but it's not just the content that we're teaching, it's kind of what our values are or what our beliefs are. And kind of, I guess that for me is important, how we make our students feel, how we encourage them to keep the sense of learning throughout their education. You know, in English teaching, it can be quite an intense program for learners, right? They can have 6 hours or 10 hours or 8 hours of English per week. So I'm always mindful that learning should be really kind of memorable, because they're getting thrown so much content, you know, during the course of a week of study or a month of study, that we should try and make learning as memorable as possible. So not only memorable, but kind of meaningful, kind of relevant to students' own contexts, I guess. So really, it's just being the person that you are, the belief system and the values that you have, and then also kind of, I would say, kind of maximizing the potential of the job that you're doing. So I always think that if we're teaching a noun, for example, like, I don't know, elephant, then why wouldn't you teach the article that goes with elephant? Because more often than not, we would say an elephant. Look, an elephant, for example. So we're not just teaching words in isolation, we're just teaching chunks of language together. And just anything that can really help students master English in that way, really. And that's kind of it, really. And being aware that time is precious. You know, we can't just have individual dialogues with students in a lesson. We've got to teach the group, the whole, rather than the individuals. And just putting a focus back onto, away from the teacher and kind of back onto learning. These are kind of the ideas that have carried me and served me over the years.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much. And let's move to another question about it. As we know that as English teachers, and we are trying to teach English to the students, I really wonder what you think about it. How do you define teaching English as an English teacher or trainer?
You shared this question with me, yeah. I don't know if I should say that in front of everybody, but you did share these questions with me. I just wanted to raise that. And I was intrigued by this one. And like, how do I answer this? So what I did, I Googled it. Okay, and I've got it on my screen in front of me here. So I'm just going to read it to you. So I Googled, how do you define teaching English? Okay, and it says the practice and theory of learning and teaching English for the benefit of those whose first language is not English. Okay, and I think we could all agree with that, but I think it's quite a simplistic term, isn't it? Really, it's not really looking. It doesn't really answer the kind of what we do with students ourselves in the classroom, or at least I don't think it does here.
Exactly.
So I think you know, when we teach English, I often think that we do it more often than not all schools or not all classes, but we do it in isolation from other subjects. So I think what we should be doing is bringing different school subjects together a little bit more. So there's a natural kind of a collective of learning rather than just independent pieces. I don't mean just things like CLIL or kind of content-based teaching. I mean a little bit more holistic than that. So I think a lack of communication across departments can be a problem for learners. I think that's how we could define teaching a little bit better. And then there's all these things, isn't there? You know, every few years there are new trends which appear and that pop up. You know, at the minute we're looking at kind of behavioural skills and kind of global citizenship and things like that. Previously we were focusing on kind of life skills, or also nowadays we're looking at social emotional learning as well. So it can be quite a complex thing for a lot of younger teachers to get their heads around, right? It's not just teaching language anymore. We're teaching students and helping students to develop, right? And I think a lot of these trends can be confusing for younger teachers. You know, it requires a lot to get their heads around it.
I see.
Is my idea. So, and that's kind of where I see it, really.
Okay.
I don't know if I've answered your question. I don't know if I've answered your question there. I'm kind of rambling.
Perfect.
A little bit,
It's a great. By the way, there's a question. Nilgün is asking. Then I have a question to Steve. Could you tell us that you are an English teacher without telling you are an English teacher?
What do you mean?
I mean, like, you can read it. Can you read the comments? It's at the bottom.
I can't see the comments. I can just see people who are joining the session. I can see that.
Now, maybe, just a moment. Now, can you see it?
I have a question from Nilgün. Okay, yeah, I think I can see that. So could you tell us what you are, an English teacher, without telling you are an English teacher? I'm not sure I understand, Volkan. Maybe I've had a long day today. I've been jumping in and out of meetings. But what do you mean? Could you, Nilgün Hanım, could you make it kind of so silly idiots like me can understand?
Yeah, she's listening to us, by the way. I think she will write. Okay.
I'm an A1 detector now. So I guess, okay, so I guess English teachers are everything, aren't they? If I understand the premise of your question, I guess English teachers are everything. They are psychologists, right? So we are carers, we are doctors when they hurt themselves. We are everything. We are musicians, we are magicians, we are motivators. Exactly. Is this what you mean? Like, I'm not even sure.
I see. Okay. And there's another. Okay. So I think that's the you have the answer, I think, for the question. All right. So let's move to another question. That I know that as we are also English teacher and we use course books and in our lessons. So, and what is your idea about the course books in language teaching? Do we really need them?
I'm going to throw this back at you, Mr. Volkan. So do you think we need them?
In some cases, I think yes, we need them because we need a kind of, guide. We need a guide to follow in our lessons because, okay, it's maybe we can teach without course books, and then we can just jump from one topic to another topic, and then maybe there won't be any order what we have to, to follow or what we should teach first and then second. But with the course books, we can say that maybe it's kind of a guide. We can just follow it and we can get benefit from it, or with order we should follow it. We can get them from the course books. But we can handle it without them also. But what about you?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Yeah, no, I mean, great answer, by the way. I think using it as a guide is kind of true, really, and that's how I used to use course books. Listen, when I first started teaching, believe it or not, when I was teaching adults and university students many years ago, like 25 years ago, I was using a series called Streamline. Perhaps perhaps you have heard of it, or some of your guests have know about Streamline. I mean, this was a very basic resource for teaching with, and when I was teaching primary kids at that time, we didn't have anything available. There were no published materials available at the institutions I was working at that we could use. So more often than not, we were having to create our own resources, either if we were using Streamline, so we were creating materials to supplement with Streamline because it wasn't a very exciting course, or for young learners, we were polishing the curriculum that the school had at the time and then creating all of the materials ourselves. Preparing flashcards. I used to spend hours just laminating. I don't see any laminators in schools anymore, but we used to spend hours just laminating flashcards or making posters or pictures or games or even creating assessment material for students. And I think when I first started teaching, that for me was the fun, the creative aspect of teaching. I think if I wasn't doing it in a time if I wasn't able to do that, I'm not sure if my love of teaching would have developed as much. I was kind of opening up lots of creativity myself. Yeah. I think publishers do a great job, don't they? They provide lots of materials. And if you have many classes in your school, or if there are many campuses, then it kind of provides a kind of standardized framework, doesn't it? It makes sure that this class and this class are pretty much learning similar things. And they provide so many resources. I think sometimes too many resources, and this can lead to kind of a lot. It can be overwhelming for teachers, I think, sometimes. But the materials that they're creating, of course, they're very generic, aren't they? They don't know you. They don't know you and your students. They don't know your context. They're produced for a variety of different countries or different contexts of teaching. So I think teachers nowadays, if they're not investing in creating some of their own materials, they're really missing out on the magic of teaching. For me,
you are right.
I think so. And most course books, when I worked full time in publishing, a lot of schools would ask me, how many hours for this course book? You probably ask the same question to publishers that you work with as well.
Yeah, probably ask them.
And you ask them, and they pretty much say 90 to 120 hours, right, for a main course book. But that's assuming that teachers are just they're just doing the activities one by one. I would always say that if it's between 90 and 120 hours, I'd actually double it. and I would be wanting
Mm-hmm.
to produce 50% additional content myself that students can work with. So rather than just teaching activity 1, 2, and 3, I would create an activity as a transition between activity 1 and 2. I would put in an extra
1 and 2.
practice activity. I'd put in an
I
extra
see.
game. Yeah. So rather than just teaching the book, teach the students, but as you said, using it as a guide
As a
rather
guide. Mm-hmm.
than
I
just
see.
teaching it page by page.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Someone is asking you something here. Let me hear with it. Nural is asking, good materials with a mediocre teacher level or poor teaching materials with great teachers, he says. Can you see it?
Do I have
wrote
to
it in.
choose? Do I have to choose one or the other? Can you put the question up again? I think it's from Nural, isn't it?
Yeah, I've done it. Can you see it?
I can't see it. Could you repeat the
Really?
question again, Volkan?
Just a moment. Yeah. Good materials with a mediocre teacher level or
Mediocre. Yeah,
poor,
kind of.
yeah, mediocre teacher level or poor teaching material with great teachers. Thanks.
I guess it's subjective, isn't it? I guess how do you define mediocre or poor materials? I don't think there are mediocre or poor materials. I think it's the teacher themselves that will make the materials mediocre, poor, or great and exciting. I would
Yeah.
say. I would say a good teacher can pretty much teach with everything.
Why not? Definitely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So thank you, Steve. Let's move to another question. I know that you have worked on lots of course books, if I'm not wrong. And when you think about them, what was your favorite course book that you worked on it? Why? And the follow-up question is, what makes it different than other course books that you worked on?
Okay. Yeah, good. So I would say I do. I heard the question,
Okay.
Volkan. Yeah. There was it. I think it was buffering, but I got the question. Yeah, I've mostly worked on primary and secondary grade materials, less so with high school or university. That's intentional. I find working with lower grade material more fun for me, more exciting. And I kind of do three things really at the minute. Sometimes I work on creating customized material for existing resources. So it might be a published material that is used in a different country, like for example in Spain or in Italy. And then this material is then licensed to be used in another country. It could be Turkey, it could be Italy or Lebanon or somewhere. So taking that existing material and then making changes so it works in a different context. So this is kind of one of the projects that I've done. And I think more of this is happening over time because there's so many resources out there that publishers now are starting to recycle content and producing material that was specific for one country at one point, and then is going to be used somewhere else. So this is the first thing I do. The second thing we work on is, so for example, if a course has 4 levels, we might work on extending it from 4 levels to 6 levels. So we might put a pre-level and a post-level course. And then the third type of publishing we work on is creating materials from scratch. So from conception to publication. I like working on taking existing material that exists somewhere. It could be in Brazil, it could be in anywhere really, in China, and then taking it and then using that existing material as a kind of a foundation for changes, for customization.
I see.
This is the kind of, I find this kind of work more rewarding for me. I've just finished working on one with an author who you might know called Paul Seligson. He's quite well known.
Sure.
And we did a primary series together called Kids Web Skills Trainer, which is available in Turkey and in other countries as well. And this is something that we did for that. So this was originally designed as a main course for Brazil, actually. And then the project involved taking that content and then customizing it for different countries in Europe.
Nice.
Yes, go on, Volkan, sorry.
Sorry for interrupting. When you said you take the existing materials and you customize it and you change it, do you, for example, the existing material you take from different country, let's say from Brazil, and you need to implement it to the book in where you're gonna use it in, for example, Turkey or another country, do you read the background of the country, or do you check the background of the country, like is it suitable for that country or not? Can we use it or not?
Absolutely, yeah. That is when we do an initial analysis. This is what we're looking at. We're looking at how this content, of course, can be adapted. We can add additional content to it, but does it have a basic foundation for customization? Yeah, that's something we really bear in mind. And we look at kind of, Ministry of Education's, their curriculums, their syllabi from all different countries, and we try and bring them together as a whole. That's exactly what we do.
It's really hard work, I'm sure.
It's good fun, though. As I said, really, really rewarding work. And it's great finally to see that material being used in the classroom.
I see. And I need to ask another question with it. Like, related with the books, I think, and should teachers, plan their, the lessons or deliver them spontaneously? Is something kind of related with the previous question, but would you like to say anything else about it?
Okay. I think every time you tell a question, Volkan Bey, it starts buffering. I don't know why. But I got the question.
No, maybe is it about your maybe headphone? It's the wireless. That's
Possibly.
why you take it later.
It might be that. Yeah, it might be that. I got the question. So you were really asking about kind of should we plan lessons or deliver them spontaneously? I think you were saying.
Exactly.
I mean, I think there's a bit of both there, isn't there? I think I think we need to plan, and over time, I don't think teachers plan enough, by the way. It was something, along with creating materials, it was something that I used to love doing years ago, was planning my lessons. And when I mean planning, I don't necessarily mean, writing down minute by minute what is going to happen. Often mean, I don't know if you get this, but also visualizing how the lesson will go before you've gone into the class. Do you ever do that with your students? You kind of visualize the class. You kind of go through it in minute by minute, or 5 or 10 minutes by 10 minutes. But I do think that often teachers get thrown lots of extra responsibilities that they shouldn't be doing. So, for example, during break times, teachers have to do, in Turkey we say nöbet, right? They have to go and look after the kids in the corridors or outside, just to make sure they're safe and they're not falling over and hurting themselves. I often think that teachers should really be focused on their lessons only. So, in that break between lessons, teachers should only be at that time planning their lessons if they haven't done it before, and kind of getting their materials and resources ready for that lesson. But more often than not, as I said, a lot of teachers have lots of other responsibilities as well, which I think impacts the quality of teaching.
Definitely it impacts.
Did you get that?
You're totally right. Sure, definitely. Okay, so let's move to another question. Thank you very much. I'm sure that you have done thousands, not thousands, but maybe lots of training sessions and presentations and etc. And what was or were the most interesting situation or situations that you faced during your training sessions or presentations?
You know, I don't do as much training now as what I used to. Part of my previous roles in my previous jobs, I was doing a lot more training than I do now. So I can talk about those times more specifically. Oh my God, there's just so many. Some of them are humorous, some of them are horrifying.
No problem.
I could probably write a book on these actually. So many times when you go to places and like you're just about to start and then the power will cut. You know, I've had that a few times. The power just cuts, and then you have 100 teachers just looking at you, and you think, right, what do I do here? And especially if you're doing a session on technology, right? And you've got all this technology ready, and then all of a sudden the power goes, and you're like, right, how do I talk about this? What do I do now? Just start juggling, I guess, killing time, waiting for the power to come back on. I've had one situation where there was a wedding next door to a training conference salon. So we had loud music, we had gunshots going in the air.
Oh wow.
And that was quite, I mean, you can't upstage a wedding. You know, it's impossible to upstage a wedding. Lots of different things. Arriving at a training event, thinking you have 1 hour to deliver a session and then you're done for the day. And then just as you're about to begin, they say, right, so you're ready for your 3 sessions today. Wow. And like, wow, okay, thank you. And then in the break times, you're quickly scrambling to get some more content together. I was thinking about this question because, as I said, you shared it with me. That I guess the horror story, I guess, is I was at a conference in Denizli here in Turkey, about, I can't remember, 8 or 7 years ago. But my plenary talk was after lunch. So the conference had all broken for lunch, and we were sat having lunches, and I guess that the waiters were carrying trays of food, right? They were kind of carrying trays of food and serving food to the tables. And the waiter behind me, he must have been leaning over to put drinks down. I can't remember. And like the whole tray of food, just like he lost the whole tray of food. And it it was like it was like a meat stew. Right, a hot meat stew, and it just went all the way down my back of my shirt.
Oh my God!
Like just my whole lunch was. I was now wearing my whole lunch, right? and I was due to start a plenary about 45 minutes later, so I skipped lunch. I couldn't eat my lunch, and then I had to dash off, and I found a bathroom, and I had to wash my shirt, you know, as best as I could, and then try and dry it in, you know, the hand dryers, try and dry it in the hand dryers. But of course, it didn't work very well, and I had stains all over the back of my shirt, and that just wasn't a great way to prepare for a plenary session.
Yeah, you had the session, by the way, huh?
I did the session. It wasn't very good, but I did the session.
with the food on you. With the lunch on you.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Really, thank you very much, by the way, sharing the moment with us. It's really wonderful. It's a great moment for you.
It wasn't at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Steve. Let's move to another question. You know, we all as a teachers, you know, want to get the success. Okay, we get the success. So how does success both inside and outside the classroom happen?
Okay. Wow. Okay. Great question. I guess it depends on context again. Firstly, I would say it depends on context. I think, you know, if we look at how English language learning happens not only here in Turkey but in other places too.
Uh-huh.
I guess if we're looking outside of the classroom, I think success can happen more if there is a higher sense of immersion. So what I mean is, like, are students going to interact with the language or going to hear the language or use the language outside of the classroom? And in places where, English learning happens more quickly, in places like Holland, for example, they only have 2 or 3 hours of learning, of lessons a week. Sorry, but they seem to accelerate the speed of their learning a lot faster than other countries, right? This is because outside of the classroom, they're interacting with the language on a daily basis. They'll hear it more on television. It's around them a lot more. In terms of in the classroom, there's a nice quote actually by Zoltan Doinier. I don't know if you've heard of Zoltan Doinier. I'm sure you have. You've probably got a book by him on your bookshelf there.
Yeah, probably.
In the background. Exactly. Sure. But he sadly passed away last year, actually, unfortunately, after a short illness. But if any of the guests are interested, Zoltan Doinier writes a lot about kind of motivation. Okay. And he says this really nice quote that I use quite a lot in my trainings, that, we are success. If we believe that we can be successful, we will be successful, is basically the quote. So he talks how we can help students to feel successful, how we can develop their success potential, how we believe, I can't remember the quote exactly. We do things best if we believe we can succeed. That's the quote. We do things best if we believe we can succeed. So I think our job primarily in the classroom, more than anything else, is making students believe that they can be successful. Of course, how we go about that depends on the context that we find ourselves in. But of course, I think that's a great start, is making them believe that they can be successful.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve. Let's move to another question. So it's about, as we know that, the 21st century skills, if you know that, it's really important for us. We are trying to, to teach them in our classes, like critical thinking and collaboration and communication. We are trying to do them for 4 C's, and now I think it's 6, not a 4, but like this. And why do we have to teach 21st century skills in the classroom, and how successful we are about it, according to your observations?
It's great, Volkan, that you include the 2 additional C's. There are 6 C's now, aren't there? They've also included, if we start with collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and communication, we've also got compassion and character now, I think it is, and also citizenship and community as well, right? These are the other 2 C's. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think that, even before the 21st century, we were teaching some of these things. I think it's very difficult to teach English without teaching communication. It's kind of a prerequisite to the subject, right? But of course, it's good having these as a reference. I think it helps to shape how we go about planning and developing material or resources that embrace the 6 C's now. Certainly a lesson or a chunk of lessons should involve the 6 C's. There should be aspects of the 6 C's that go through a chunk of study. A chunk could be a week, couldn't it? It could be a month, or it could be a semester or a term, etc. How do we, the second part of your question, how successful are we about it? I mean, it's difficult to say, isn't it? Because I would say that most of the skills that these give students will be utilized later in life, right? It's not something that they will necessarily use as much now as what they will take with them and use when they leave education and move into like a working career. So I guess it's less tangible to assess how successful it is while we're at school, if that makes sense. You know, it's quite subjective, isn't it? How do we assess creativity or character? How can we assess these things? It's incredibly subjective, isn't it?
Not easy.
So, of course, we get indicators. We can do activities with students that give us an idea of how successful they are with these things. But I think it's not until later on, when they start utilizing these in their future lives or future careers, that we would say, is my feeling.
I see. Thank you very much, Steve, about it.
Yeah.
And by the way, just the couple questions left, not lots of questions. Time flies, you know.
It does.
I hope you are not.
It does, doesn't it?
I hope you are not boring. It's really perfect session for us. It's listening to you is something incredible, really.
Well, you're very kind, Volkan. I'm not sure about that sometimes.
No,
My son doesn't feel the same way.
Okay, nice one. Okay, thank you. Let me ask you another question. It's also really, there's a popular term, and we all using it, Chatgpt, as you know, and it's really, it's getting day by day. It's really becomes more popular. So, what do you think about Chatgpt and the effects on language teaching?
Wow, I mean, I think sometimes, I'm going to speak specifically about Turkey at the beginning of this answer, and then I will kind of move it out a little bit further. I think in Turkey, we kind of, we are very quick to jump on new digital and technological trends here. And you can bet your bottom dollar that as soon as something new appears, within a few weeks, on social media, there are people advertising different training sessions for it, and they're trying to be the first ones to get in there and do it. I've seen this happen over the years with other types of technology and different apps and online games before. I think it's good. We should embrace technology, but I'm not sure about, I don't know about I'm not sure if I agree pedagogically sometimes with how effective it is as a learning tool. I'm not just talking about Chatgpt now, I'm just talking about technology more generally. But, we should be mindful of, we've got Generation Z, we've got Generation Alpha now. Alpha is students that were born after 2010, I think. So my son is a Generation Alpha. So it's kids from 0 to kind of 13 years old. And, how they engage with technology, especially kind of, using social media and using entertainment, is really very different how previous generations did. I mean, if you look, for example, on YouTube, you can see them, what do they call them, shorts or reels, those short videos that you can
YouTube
watch.
Shorts.
YouTube Shorts, right? And my son's the same. He's 9 years old. He goes through these really quickly. So, he can watch, each one is 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and he can whistle through 40 or 50 of these, blast ideas of content, a variety of different subjects. He can just immerse himself in so many different things very quickly and then move on to the next one. And I often think, how does that, because he's experiencing that, how does he then, react when he's in a classroom context and the teacher is spending 20 minutes going through one point or one activity.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of a much slower pace and less exciting kind of content. So I think we need to embrace technology to help engage certainly Generation Alpha and Generation Z. But with Chatgpt, you know, the CEO, which is, his name is Sam, isn't it? Sam, I don't know, Sam Altman or something. I can't remember now. I think he's,
Yeah, I also
think it's
can't
Sam
remember
Altman.
it.
Sam Altman is the CEO of Chatgpt, and it was interesting. He released a statement last week. I don't know if you saw this, Volkan. He was saying that he has artificial intelligence, and Chatgpt now has the capabilities to end human race, to end the human race, to finish the human race, is what he was saying, which is frightening. You know, which is frightening.
Definitely.
I don't mean in a kind of doomsday scenario way, but kind of, you know, I don't know if the technology can integrate itself through every aspect of life where almost kind of we're unable to exist. Elon Musk said a few months ago, didn't he? He said, I think we need to pause artificial intelligent development until we truly understand it and we can assess its capabilities. So there are questions there with ChatGPT and AI, but I use it. You know, I use it myself. I've used it to create songs, to create jazz chants. I've used it as a kind of a brainstorming tool. So somebody to chat to, just to get ideas. You know, so I put questions to it and I ask it to give me their reactions. I use it to develop ideas. So I think it's okay. For students, I think people worry about plagiarism, right? Where ChatGPT will write a student's essay, for example.
Exactly.
I think there is a concern there for that. But what you can do is with ChatGPT, you know, maybe the process, so if we're talking about writing, maybe the process of writing is changing now where, you know, ChatGPT is used to go through the process of writing. So instead of students writing a piece of, you know, an essay themselves or a task, what they're doing is engaging with AI to shape a piece of writing. So
I see.
Yes, ChatGPT writes the material, and then students help to, you know, at the beginning they can help generate the ideas, and then they can help to plan. You know, so all of a sudden the stages of writing become more important. So students can input into ChatGPT their ideas for planning, maybe their ideas for drafting. You know, if ChatGPT creates a piece of work, then students can then go back and help ChatGPT to edit it, maybe to simplify it, to change aspects, maybe rewrite it before they finally publish it. So I think there's a long way to go with it, and it's still probably too early to say how it, you know, its true benefits for now. Have you used it at all?
I use
yourself?
it. Yeah, I use it. Yeah, I use it. I used it to kind of, you know, the kind of a text, the writing kind of a text. Use it, but it's really, you know, when I ask the question to write about, I don't know, kind of something to use it in the classroom, like I write it down and it gives me a perfect text to use it in the classroom. But
then you can simplify it, right? You can say, right now, imagine that this is a teenage student with an A2 level of English, and it will recreate the in that
same
way.
Text.
And then you can say, right, this is a great story now. Can you give me the Turkish version as well? And it will just produce the Turkish version for you as well. You know, it's just, I mean, it has so much potential. But like I said, I think there's a question mark surrounding it all at the minute in terms of how much it can kill us all.
Exactly. Thank you, Steve, about it. Let's move to the another question. So, how do you see yourself in 10 years? Will you still be the working as a trainer, or the jobs you do it, or try another jobs?
What, in the future?
Yeah.
I would hope that I will be doing a mixture of things. I'm the kind of guy that I prefer variety. For me is the spice of life. That's how I much prefer. That's what really engages me. I think if I was doing the same thing too much, then for me I'm not so engaged. I like a different kinds of variety. There's an expression in English: jack of all trades or master of none. So do you know a little bit about everything, or do you prefer to focus on one specific area? I think some people, some people, they can be really focused on one specific area and make a really good job of it. For me, I like to try a little bit of everything. I like to be the jack of all trades.
Different
really.
things.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to know from the group joining us now whether they think they are jack of all trades or a master of one. Put them in the chat box.
Yeah, you can write it, and probably I also try different things, probably. But actually, I love doing what I'm doing right now as a teacher. But probably I will teach in 10 years later too. But I don't know. I can try also other things. We will see.
I think never say never, right? And try and embrace different things that you might not even realize you had the potential to do. Sometimes by trying something you can understand that your skills are probably more suited somewhere else.
I see. Okay, so I think someone did they read Sumo Jam wrote it down. What's that? The first one? 10T, she said. What's that? About your question. Anyway.
Okay. Hi, Gulson.
Okay, so let's move to another one. Thank you very much. I think they didn't they didn't write. I don't know why, but okay. All right. So let's move to another. I really wonder about the next question. What I'm going to say about it. Let me ask you: if you could have one superpower, 10 talents on 10 fingers. She means this.
10 talents on 10 fingers. Yes, you're absolutely right, Gulson. Yes.
Yeah, but she is, by the way. All right. And if you could have one superpower to use in the classroom, Steve, what would it be, and how would it help you?
Oh God, I really dislike this question.
Why?
Well, aren't teachers supposed to have superpowers anyway? You've seen on social media, I'm a teacher, what is your superpower? Memi, you've probably seen this on social.
Yeah.
So I think it implies that we already have superpowers anyway, right? I don't really know. I guess, did you ever see that film? It's not a good film, but it's called Next. And it's got Nicolas Cage in it, right? It's got Nicolas Cage in it. And if any of you have seen this film, it's not very good. I don't recommend it, really. If you're bored one evening, then you could probably watch it. But the idea of this film is that Nicolas Cage can see like up to 3 minutes in the future.
In the future.
Okay, up to 3 minutes. Can you? Yeah, do you remember it now? So I think I don't know if it's a superpower or not, but that would be quite an interesting thing to have in the classroom, wouldn't it? So you would almost see the problems before they happened, if that makes sense. I guess experience gives you that anyway, doesn't it? So over time, if you've been teaching for a long time, you develop these kind of supernatural powers. Anyway, right? But yes, to see into the immediate future would be my superpower.
I see. Okay. So thank you very much, Steve, for the superpower. All right, yes, we are coming to the last question. Yeah, are you ready for the last question?
Oh wow, okay, that's gone quick.
Yeah. What is your motto?
Oof.
Do you have?
Yeah, I didn't like this question either, Volkan.
Yeah.
I don't really have a motto for teaching, but I do have a motto for life. I have a couple of mottos that kind of serve me well in
Sure.
life. I always think, if someone asks me the question, when is the best time to leave a party, right? I think the best time to leave a party is when you're having the most fun. Okay, because afterwards, when you look back on that party, your ideas will always be positive about it, right? You've left at the right point when the most people were having the most fun. And I think this can be applied, to kind of everything in our life. So including our jobs as well. Gone are the days where, my dad's generation, he worked at the same company from the age of 21 until he retired at 62 or 63. But I think nowadays the jobs market is very different, and we have lots of different jobs throughout our careers. For me, I kind of get to that kind of 5-year hitch or 6-year hitch where I'm looking for a change again. And I always think the best time to leave a job is when I'm having the most fun, when it's given me as much as I can.
I see.
So that is my motto, really. It's kind of like, there's an expression in English, a rolling stone gathers no moss. The idea that through movement, you don't pick up all of this negativity and you just keep moving forward. So I would say, for anyone joining, when you're next at your party, when you're next having the most fun, leave.
Leave it. I see. When you have the top of fun, just leave it. Okay. Thank you very much. By the way, that's all my questions by my side, Steve. And before ending our live sessions, would you like to add anything else?
No, I mean, not really, Volkan. I think I've spoken far too much anyway. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Awesome. Thank you, Volkan, again for asking me. You're doing a great job of this, by the way, and I'm sure it's being really beneficial to everybody that's joining your sessions. It's a great commitment from you. And
thank you.
And you're doing great work, and keep going would be my advice, and keep going. But well done.
Thank you.
And
thank you very much. That's all. Okay, thank you very much, by the way. And what I would like to say one more time, thank you very much for accepting my invitation and for your advice and your suggestions, and especially, which is the most important thing, your time. You spend your time with us here at the Teacher Talks. That was perfect for us. Thank you very much. And Steve Ogden was with us tonight, and we had a very fruitful session. And we are going to be here next week at the same time, on the same day, as you know that, every Monday and at 9 p.m. in Turkey. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and take care of yourself, Steve. And peace, everybody. Until the next time. Bye-bye. Hello?
Thank you. All the best, everybody. Big kisses.
All the best.
Yeah,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.